Hi everyone, this is Tanya the Lady Strange. Welcome. And this is going to be my major deck wrap up for the month of May. So these are some notable decks I use. I use a lot of decks for various purposes, but these are certain ones that are stand out like a theme. Each month for almost the past couple years, other than a few instances, of course, because that's lifing, is basically I have a song, because music is magic, that inspires my month, my past working, my life experience as a woman, my day to day, but also the magic I create as I'm a practitioner. So, with that being said, I have different songs that inspire different themes, different past working, my current projected experiences, those change, but yes. So sticking with that, other than January, because January was a hard month, well, or recuperating month, there's videos on that if you're interested or feel inclined on checking on. For myself, as I do share my personal life and gnosis on here, not in full detail, but it is relevant to my experience and my magical practice and my humanity as a woman. So, the deck theme, so I did February, March, and April. I only filmed April's on here, just to give you a general idea if you're interested in checking it out to see. But these are decks. So these are decks in my collection. Basically, what I'm attempting to do this current year is decks that I traditionally have in my collection that I have either A, never worked with at all, or or B, on a consistent, have worked with but barely, on a very limited experience and want to get to know it better to see how it finds place in my collection, my relationship, my magic, and my past working, as I believe my decks are not just all about divinatory or just a collection. They are workhorses, especially the main ones, as they are psychological, magical tools. They are life tools. They are aesthetic. They are inspiration. They are creativity. They are teachers and allies. They also bring lots of lessons, and that's which is hidden beyond the scene of this world. And different perspectives, of course. And with that being said, so this month's theme was a song by Vast, Vast, a amazing industrial sort of 90s sort of band that came out in the 90s that I found in the early 2000s from one of my coworkers that I was good friends with at the time. I am in love with the first two albums. After that, I've sampled some of them, and it's just not the same sound, aestheticism, and feeling to me. And those are big parts of music and elements like the cards in my magic. Has to be, does it invoke and evoke feeling, thought, magic, strength, teaching, guidance, resonance, relativity, uniqueness, truth? Um, do the lyrics match the song, or the rhythm, the beat, vice versa? Or how is it applicable on that? So Vast did one of my favorite songs of all time, "Pretty When You Cry." Yes. But this song is called the Niles Edge that inspired my monthly pass working for May and the decks I used. So it is the Niles Edge. I will do my best to try to link in the description box a video or something for YouTube so that way you can hear it for yourself. It's a beautiful song and the lyrics are beautiful. It's haunting, much like the Egyptian pantheon. So esoteric, so full of wisdom in ancient times and colors, and that which came and set forth so much of different magical practices, spirituality in the world and how we currently know it, foundations, artwork, um, many deities which are laid the way of that, such wisdom, such power, such everything. Yes, we'll put it that way. Before I keep rambling, let's go on with the decks. So basically, Egyptian theme. So these are again not all the decks I use because I use many others. I'm hoping the wind doesn't start blowing these cards away, especially since some of these are kind of out of print or older. So yeah. So the main one I use this month almost every day, not every day, but quite, I'd have to say about 85% of the time as a main deck, is the Ibis Tarot. Now, I got this one back, venture to say 20 something years ago. I've had her in my collection. I was foolish enough to throw away the guidebook and box back then, destroyed it probably moving, or just because I wasn't as careful or concise with my decks. At that point, I was in the beginning of my tarot journey, meaning starting to acquire. I only had a few decks at that time, including this one I acquired. So a different time frame, different age, different life experience, different things I've evolved since then, and many, many, many decks. So with the Ibis Tarot here, I always loved it and resonated with the historical value, the magical and esoteric value, the lifestyle. I always loved history. I loved things about the pyramid and just learning. I always was. And that felt such resonance to me. It spoke to me in different parts of me and things maybe I didn't quite understand. And I did eventually learn different reasons, as to why or how they applied. It's all about knowledge is actually power, as is wisdom is acquired through experience. And we should always try to be learn and evolve. And maybe see why certain things appeal to us and resonate with us, and how maybe they are integrated or affect us. So the Ibis Tarot there, so I didn't work with her much at all. I've looked through her several times. She actually sat aside for years. So that being said, I finally decided to start working with the Egyptian pantheon, the asceticism of, okay, there's stuff on the ground, sorry about that. Getting distracted. The aestheticism of it, the history, the spirituality, what it can teach. One should not forget the past. We should learn from the past. I think that is a big thing the world does not want to learn from the past, or to bring in that wisdom of it and how it applies. There's so much more than what we just live in day to day. And there's so many things of that. So the Egyptian, I was just always attracted to everything Egypt and its culture. We'll put it that way. And this is getting rambly, so I'm going to get on and start showing the cards. So I worked with that song, that theme, and the energy of connection with Egyptian spirituality, magic, deities through connection, meditation, and how it applies to my practice, my day-to-day experience, maybe gaining some new knowledge, perspective, and just working with something slightly different. Now, this deck has a feeling of a lot of Rider-Waite to it, but a lot of Thoth-based on it, which is my main favorite system, is Thoth-based. It also has its own system, I think having to do with astrology and such, which I only know very, very limited when it comes to that, or what I can be intuitive on. So this deck I connected with. I love the different colorations in this deck. I do find that the minors are actually kind of pippish, but they're effective. I love the colors on it. They're amazing. I've got the Knight of Swords or the Warrior of Swords quite a lot in this deck, multiple times, at least seven or eight, if not more, for that. So that's pretty big out of a thing of 31 days, if you can think of that ratio. Almost a third. I love the majors in this. But I do think I was going to be able to read it because the titles were a little bit different because of its system, but it actually was a very easy reader and seemed to be very relevant to my day-to-day experiences and guidance and what I would be mindful and aware of for the day. So this deck is amazing. I'm not sure if it's out of print or not, but yes. I know there's some copies on eBay and out there, so I don't know. But this deck has taught me and connected with something that I feel inside myself. within my soul, my magic, and my love and need for learning and history, and trying to open up a new perspectives and perceptions for myself. And but to marry in maybe senses of deja vu, something I want to connect with, and how it interconnects with my experience. And so those are some of the decks. I'm not gonna, or decks, cards. I'm not gonna show every one of them, but these are just to give an idea. Again, the colors in this, I do love the majors quite a lot. I like the feeling, the aestheticism. It's got about typical cardstock, which is fine for me. And it's helped me to learn something new and find a different facet of my path to add and integrate into my path. And that's what I believe the cards do. That's what I do believe magical tools do. So, one more. And with that being said, there's the lovely Ibis Tarot. Now, next deck that was notable for the month of May, and to go with my theme, is this deck. This is a oracle deck, I guess, or a magical tool, both, as I said, the cards are magical tools. It is called The Way of Cartouche. Now look at this one. Here's the guidebook, just like the box is in house. The box is a little dilapidated and damaged. I got this deck, this is the guidebook for a lovely hardcover guidebook. I got this deck at me and those couple people in my life, like friends and such, and family members that know, called the Witchy Garage Sale, or Witchy Estate Sales, should I say. So I have this co-worker at the time. This is several years ago. I think more than 5 years ago. Yeah, more than 5, give or take. But basically, that I was also into tarot, witchcraft, and I worked with him. He worked with me at the job I used to be at for most of my life. But yes, so he came in and he worked with us. So we ended up talking, sharing decks, crystals, talking, general work conversation that you can get between being in a call center, that is. And sometimes outside of work, of course. So he turned me on to this. So he's like, you gotta come and send pictures. So it's this estate sale, like in this middle of nowhere, maybe about 45 minutes or so from my home. So we did it as spur of the moment, my husband and I did, after seeing his. He's like, there's decks here galore and witchy stuff and magic and esoteric and books and literature and randomness everywhere. So, of course, I jumped on it. And I found some of my most rare and amazing decks there for a really fucking reasonable price. So it was a win. You could be left to your own devices. So this was one of the decks I found. So basically, again, Egyptian based. I'm just going to open up here. There's a whole lot to this deck. And I mean, not just besides divinatory meanings and intuitive readings, there is meditation, there is many spreads, there is used as a talisman, symbology having to do with the Egyptian, the cartouche type of energy. So this fits right in. It's right up my alley. It had to do with that. And of course it goes well with the Ibis Tarot and goes into working this oracle. I used, yes, it did, some of the meanings did bring into the day. I didn't use it every day of the month, this past month of May, but I did use it fair enough. I used it as a talisman and energetic guidance, and in my practice to bring into that day or the current couple days I was using it in. It certainly did have a lot of empowering days that helped me to bring that sorcery into my day-to-day life experience, but to marry both the magic and the mundane. So, again, you can see this deck, I think I paid, the deck itself is in excellent condition, as is the guidebook. Just to give you a general example, just so you can see. I paid like how much you want to pay for it. These people didn't know what gold mine they had, trust me, in some of this stuff. So I offered like $8, maybe 10, And yeah, I got it. So again, here's the backings. Again, I use this as magical talismans. So I'll show you a few of these cartouches. Now here, two stuck together. But as you can see, the colorations, the aestheticism, and the energies definitely complemented with the Ibis Tarot and the working with the Egyptian energies, pantheon, histories, and the connections. My magic and my relationships are all about relationships, relativity, and energetic. I'm a very energetic witch. But that which resonates and true to me. I forge my own path. I believe we each should forge our own path, especially when we are magicians and practitioners and spiritualists. So you get a general idea from this. You can look this up. I'll show like this one and one more. Just so you get a general idea and feel that this deck is effective. I will be using in the future more so this one more often as a magical tool and for meditation practice and other things. I know it's going to come into building a relationship as necessary. So that's the Ibis and the Whale Cartouche Oracle. I housed them together in this beautiful tarot bag that my mother-in-law made me when she was alive in the past couple years. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Mom, if you're around, which I know you are a lot, meaning she's my second mom. Okay, next deck I used. That was one also that I was looking to use that I didn't use that much. I only used a little bit here and there since I got it in the past couple of years. This is a mass market one. You can find this on Amazon. It is, just so you can see. So again, another compliment to go with the entities and deities, and I connected with them as I pulled from it. And of course, the keywords, the guidebook's got something about the actual deity or entity that comes up and how it applied to that, and a magical, spiritual, but also a divinatory guidance. So it was a multi-purpose. Another deck that I highly recommend and was part of the practice, my day-to-day. I used it, well, probably about 85 to 95, 80 to 90%, so yes. So built a relationship with this. I do recommend this. Look at that, obviously. Complementary to those two other decks I showed you. You can see the keywords, the deity, the imagery, the hieroglyphs. So highly resonant, highly part of the energy. But it is so interesting, just even the minimal that it touched base on it for me. It did help me feel more empowered. It helped me feel more connection to the past, more appreciation for that. And I certainly do, it's only slightly stoked the fire of now I want to get more working in the future, and I'm sure it will come up when it's meant to come up, of working with Egyptian magic, spirituality, deities, and just learning. I mean, look at this. So interesting. And I do find the keywords often are very applicable to the overall meaning of the cards. Again, it's a good guidebook. It's Los Scarabeo, I believe, or however you say that. But it has in multiple languages, too. So that's a benefit for many in many cultures. And yes, I will be using this one again also in the future. Ibis, I believe, has its purpose when it's meant to, but the other two will probably be used more different times and a little bit more frequently when I do decide or when it comes up for me to build a relationship with. It's how it is. I work with what I'm guided with the spirits, entities, and deities I work with and my ancestors, but first and foremost, myself and my personal daemon and my life experience as a woman and what I hold within myself. We all hold divine essence. To honor that, but also honor our human life. They're both to be honored and integrated, or at least that's my point of view. So, one more, so you get a general idea of these. So this is a lovely deck. I will be working with her again in the future, but I'm glad that I started building and understanding and used it for the month of May. It certainly did help my experience. Had teaching, lessons, and relevant to the day-to-day. So it's a multi-purpose deck if you want to work with Egyptian magic, energy, spirituality, and marry that into your daily reads and draws like I did. Now next, this deck has been stepping forth a lot for me, April and May. So it's continuing. I have a feeling it's all year, and this is, of course, an oldie but goodie, not old, but oldie. It's been around for a good number of years. I believe this is the 7th edition of it. I don't think it's in print anymore. The Serpent Fire Tarot. This deck, I've found every time I pull out of it, especially the past couple months, like I said, and especially the month of May, almost every day in the month of May. So she's a big workhorse. She's big full of magic. She is the artwork. She is gorgeous. There is nudity in this deck, so if it shows, it shows. YouTube, well, it doesn't show my videos much anyways. But she's a slow space deck primarily. The guidebook's nice. I love the mantras in it. The meanings, how it describes the symbology and imagery in the cards, the depictions, but also it has a completely, in my case, many different perspectives on all the cards. So it teaches me new things. It helps me to obtain wisdom. It helps me in my experiences, but also makes me question, which is what I like. I like things that kind of, I like to question, and I like things to question me. And of course, make me learn, grow, and expand. But the colors in this deck, of course, look at that beautiful backing. And of course, that. So yes, you can see why. She was an excellent compliment to the Ibis Tarot, the Way of the Cartouche, and of course that Egyptian Gods Oracle. Fits right nicely into the song, the aesthetic, the theme, and the path working. It made me feel my inner fire more so, my wands of energy, the magic I create through how I can create my inner and outer world. My inner world and how it definitely affects my outer world, but how that can let me affect my inner world and how it helps me to take back my energy, my power of being a woman and a witch. The colors in this deck speak to me, and from someone that's losing their eyesight and has blindness and dealing with that, I still find that I can see the colors in this deck and the imagery. So to me, that might be another reason why. As I'm noticing with my eyesight, it usually with the condition or possible conditions I have, has to do with more colors. However, I've noticed I'm having more trouble seeing grays and blacks and whites when it comes to, say, for per se images or tarot cards. So who knows? But yes, this speaks to me on so many levels. And it's also got in here is Stevie Nicks from the Belladonna album as one of the cards. It's got Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra. I still got to watch that movie. I always loved the beauty of Elizabeth Taylor growing up. She's such a divine, empowered, feminine image, and I just loved her. I just loved her personality too, and her little thing. You grew up in the 80s and the 90s, all that stuff. This is completely, like I said, soul-based, so it definitely has a lot of Egyptian inspiration, symbology, very esoteric deck. This one makes you think. You need to sit with her. You need to read the guidebook. I don't always necessarily, but 9 out of 10 times I do, because I find something different each time that stands out to me as messages. And that's what it is, channeled messages. That's what I believed. I got a lot out of this too. It helped me to find more of my power, my voice, and know that I have more of a place in this world as a woman and as a spiritual being, honoring my godhood, but honoring my magic and being my own self. It's unique. She's unique. This is helping me to be more unique. Heal those old wounds, those old traumas, and reconstruct. Can start at any point in your life, and yes. So, of course, there's many things out there of this deck, but I figured I'd show some. She's, again, rapidly becoming one of my favorite decks this year, and my most up and present. So, yes. So, Serpent Fire Tarot. So, I had other decks, as I said, but the last one I'm going to show that I pulled out that I don't use as often because, number one, she was a gift to me from my cousin, whom someone is a very special person in my life, and also found the path of magic same time as me and inspires me. But he also gifted me this beautiful 1986 AGM Solstice. Yes, and I dropped the gun. It was in the box. It's in pretty good condition for its age. I mean, if you're looking at that, that's 40 years old. I'm 47, so she's a few years younger than me. I do have my main source, which I did use also at points, whom I has made a presence on this channel, who's a bit scarred, damaged, but full of wisdom, truth, wear, tear, but beauty and lust like myself. I did use her, but she's always ever present. But this one I only use on rare occasions because I don't want to destroy her. She was a beautiful, lovely gift, as I said. But Thoth is the system, but the deck itself. I got my original OG Thoth, which I just mentioned, back in, I think, like 97, 98. So yes, so she's quite up there. And she's everything. The Thoth deck will always be, and the different versions and variations and colorations of it, magic. I learn something new every single sitting I get with it. There's so much. There's sigils in this deck. There's magic. There's wisdom. There is the wisdom of Egypt. That's why I pulled it in. The image, Crowley might have been a pretty fucked up person, but many of us are. It's just the way life is. But you don't necessarily have to like the person to like their contribution, and he contributed a lot to the magical and esoteric world. And I do admire his decks. Well, the creation that he basically worked with Lady Frida Harris on this. But yes, but I like this one. Mine does not have this white border, but this one does. But this deck is in pristine condition. I like this one compared to mine because I did notice, besides that border on there, the actual colorations are different than mine too. So the saturation is different, but the feeling of her is different too. She definitely spoke well with the Ibis Tarot, the Way of the Cartouche, and she spoke well with the Egyptian Gods Oracle, but she also spoke well with, and works and always pairs well outside of the month of May with the Serpent Fire. This one, though, the energy of this one's different than mine, of course. The other one's been worked through and used thousands of times, I would have to say. But this one I've used handfuls of time. This one does have 3 magicians in it. Not because the Solstice deck has 3, but this version does. I think it's because the printer had extra paper or something or stock, so instead of wasting it, they were resourceful. But look at the colors in it. True, that's nothing compares to the Soul deck for me. She is my home deck, my soul deck. If I have to ever had to have one deck overall that serves every purposes and can and will, it would be the Soul deck. Of course, I would steal this one and my own in it due to their different energies. So it wouldn't be just one, but it'd be 2 versions of the same deck. Just as there are many versions of each of us and our paths. Like this. A lot of the colors in this one seem a bit more darker and saturated than mine. Maybe it is due to age, wear and tear, but I do feel it's different than that in the printing. I did notice other subtle things in that, but that's what I like about tarot and oracle. You might have just the different energies and how they are, and maybe their printings and versions. That's what a true collector is, but it's also truly what works. Here's one of the alternates, by the way, of the Magician. I love the keyword to the soul system, so yes. So this was one of the decks I worked with. One of my favorite devil cards. I'm a Capricorn, so yes, an affinity card. And of course, she who always haunts me, the Tower. But I love and been continuing to build a new relationship and understanding with the Tower card, and it's as a key, a door, an archetype in my life, an aspect, and as a liberator, as a creator and rebuilder in one's life. To see the wisdom and enlightenment, yes. And I'll rip up one more. Hermit. So, yes. So this is my 1986 Soul deck. Again, these are all Egyptian energies of the pantheon, the gods, the residents. Sorry, I'm shaking that. And decks that spoke to me and was guided to use. And did they help me in my day-to-day life and aid me? Yes. Did they definitely aid me in my magic and obtainment of wisdom? Yes. Did they give me divinatory guidance and help me to have an effective, empowered experiences? Yes. Did they help me to grow as a practitioner and as a woman and help me to embrace my fire, my magic, and continue to build and rebuild like the Tower, to create and destroy, but to liberate myself? Yes, that's what I believe magic is. So, with that being said, thanks for watching this rather rambly Decks of May theme and the theme of the Niles Edge by Vast. Check that out if you're interested. Amazing band, amazing song and lyrics, and looking at some of my decks and just some of my rambly practice. And with that being said, stay strange.